There's a 2,500-year-old military manual that's being used on you right now, in your next performance review, in your last salary negotiation, in that group chat where someone always seems to get their way, and you don't even know its name. It's called The Art of War, written by a Chinese general named Sun Tzu. You're probably thinking, that's a war book. What does that have to do with my 9 to 5? Here's the uncomfortable truth. That coworker who modestly downplays their wins in every meeting, that boss who mentions their own stress before asking you for a favor, that helpful colleague who somehow always ends up getting credit, whether they've read the book or not, they're playing Sun Tzu's game. And most of us are playing checkers while they're playing chess. So today, we're opening this book line by line. And I'm going to show you exactly how these 2,500-year-old strategies are running the show in your negotiations, your workplace, even your family group chat. And more importantly, I'm going to teach you how to spot it the second it happens to you. Let's get into it.
Sun Tzu lived around 500 BC. He was a military strategist, and the book he wrote, The Art of War, was meant for one purpose: winning battles without losing your entire army in the process. But here's the strange part. This book isn't just sitting in military academies anymore. It's required reading at business schools. Negotiation coaches quote it constantly. Startup founders build entire pitch strategies around it. There's a copy of this book on more CEO bookshelves than almost any other title in existence. Why? Because Sun Tzu wasn't really writing about swords and armies. He was writing about something much more universal: human psychology under pressure. He understood something that most of us don't fully grasp until we've been burned by it. Wars aren't only won with weapons. They're won with perception. What the other side believes about you, that's often more powerful than what's actually true. And that exact same principle, in a much quieter and more socially acceptable form, is running through office politics, negotiations, and relationships every single day. So let's crack open the book's most powerful teachings, one at a time, and I'll show you exactly where they're hiding in your life.
Sun Tzu's most famous line, "All warfare is based on deception." In plain terms, what you see on the battlefield is rarely the truth, and the truth is rarely visible. Now ask yourself, does that only apply to war? Think about your last salary negotiation. Your manager says, "Budgets are really tight this year." Is that true? Maybe. Or maybe it's a sentence designed to lower your expectations before you've even made your ask. Or think about a client mid-deal who casually says, "Honestly, we don't need this that badly," while internally they need it more than they're letting on. This isn't about lying. Deception in this context means concealing your real position and presenting a different one, so the other person reacts based on what you want them to believe, not what's actually true. And it's everywhere outside of negotiations too. Think about LinkedIn. People projecting hustle and grind-set energy while they're quietly burnt out. Think about job interviews where everyone performs confidence, even when their hands are shaking under the table. Deception, in Sun Tzu's sense, is the invisible operating system running underneath most human interaction. His point wasn't go lie to everyone. His point was this: before you react to what someone shows you, ask whether that's actually what's real.
Here's the second teaching, and honestly, the most misused one in modern business. Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. Let's bring this into real life. Have you ever noticed a senior colleague, someone who's actually incredibly confident and skilled, walk into a meeting and say, "I'm not totally sure about this, but maybe this idea could work"? That's not always humility. Sometimes it's a calculated move. They know that if they show up too strong, the room gets defensive or jealous or starts pushing back just to save face. So they wrap their strength in softness, and it lowers everyone's guard. Now flip it. In a negotiation, the side that's actually in the weaker position, the one that desperately needs the deal, often uses the strongest language. "We're not in a rush. We have other options on the table," even when those other options don't really exist. You see this constantly in salary negotiations, when the other side casually mentions, "We're looking at other candidates." Sometimes that's true, and sometimes it's pure pressure with nothing behind it.
Startup founders do this with investors too, deliberately underselling their traction early in a pitch so that when the real numbers land later, the impact hits harder. Here's the modern translation. A constant display of power is not proof of power. The person who keeps trying to prove their strength might actually be unsure of it, and the person who calmly accepts a weaker position without flinching might be the one holding all the control.
Teaching number 3, and honestly, the most practical one in the entire book. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Enemy feels a little dramatic for the office, so let's soften it. Think counterpart, the person across the table from you, whether that's your boss, a client, or a coworker you're negotiating with. Sun Tzu is saying that winning requires 2 things. First, know yourself. What's your actual position? How much leverage do you really have? What can you genuinely afford to walk away from? Second, know the other person. Specifically, know the difference between their stated motive, what they're telling you they want, and their real motive, what they actually want underneath that. That gap between the stated and the real motive, that's where most manipulation quietly lives. Here's an example. A manager says, I need you to work extra hours because the team really needs it. The stated motive is teamwork, but sometimes the real motive is that this makes their own performance review look better to their boss.
Or a client says, we need to lower the price. Our budget's tight. Stated motive? Budget. Real motive sometimes? They're just testing how much discount they can get. Budget or no budget. Sun Tzu's teaching here is simple but powerful. Don't treat the surface level statement as the final truth. Take one step back and ask, what does this person actually stand to gain here? The moment you start doing this consistently, negotiation stops feeling like something that happens to you. It starts feeling like a game you can actually read.
And now, arguably the deepest line in the entire book. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. This one gets misunderstood a lot. People assume it means avoid conflict at all costs. It doesn't. It means this. If you understand the situation so completely and you're so thoroughly prepared that the other side realizes fighting you would be pointless, you've already won without throwing a single punch. What does that look like at work? Think of a colleague who, before a performance review even happens, has already documented every win with hard data, already gathered feedback from every key stakeholder, already built a case so airtight that when the review meeting starts, nobody can meaningfully challenge it. No confrontation happened, but the outcome was decided long before anyone sat down. Or in negotiation, the side that walks in already knowing their alternatives, their walkaway point, what negotiation theory literally calls a BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement, sits at the table with total calm. And that calm alone is intimidating. There's no fight left to have.
This teaching tells us something important. Real power doesn't live in confrontation. It lives in preparation. The people who argue about everything, raise their voice, constantly try to prove a point, they're often operating from a position of weakness, whether they realize it or not. The people who quietly prepare, keep their options open, and state their case calmly, they're the ones actually holding the strongest hand. Now, everything so far has been about how these tactics get used on you. Let's flip it. Let's talk about your shield, how you protect yourself. Remember, these teachings aren't inherently good or evil. They're tools. And just like anyone can pick up a knife, anyone can pick up these psychological tactics. Your job isn't to become paranoid. Your job is to become aware. Tool 1, the false weakness, false strength detector. Anytime someone in a meeting, in a negotiation, presents themselves as unusually weak or unusually strong, pause. Ask yourself, is this actually true or is this a performance? Here's the pattern you'll start to notice. People who are genuinely weak in a position don't need to keep saying it. People who are genuinely strong don't need to keep proving it. When someone verbally establishes their position over and over, that's your signal that something else is going on underneath. Tool 2, one question. Ask it every single time. What does this person want me to believe and why?
This question is genuinely a superpower. It pulls your focus off the statement and onto the intent behind it. When your manager says, budget's tight, ask, what do they want me to believe? That I should ask for less. Why? Because they probably have their own budget targets to hit. When a client says, we're looking at other options, ask, what do they want me to believe? That I need to discount fast. Why? Because maybe those other options aren't as real as they sound. This question stops you from reacting on autopilot. It trains you to analyze instead. Tool 3, always keep your own BATNA ready. Go back to Sun Tzu's point about winning without fighting. If you genuinely have alternatives, another job offer, another client, another path forward, you will never present as desperate. And here's the beautiful part. When you don't look desperate, people generally stop trying manipulation tactics on you altogether, because on some level, they sense it won't work.
Tool 4, delay your emotional reaction. Manipulation works best when you react instantly, out of fear, guilt, or excitement. If a statement triggers a sudden wave of urgency or anxiety in you, that's your first red flag. Take a breath. Ask yourself, do I actually need to decide this right now? Or is this urgency being manufactured? That single pause, just a few seconds, is often the difference between reacting and choosing. So here's the thing. Sun Tzu never imagined his book would end up quoted in Zoom calls, salary negotiation emails, or LinkedIn.
So next time someone shows up weak when you suspect they're not, manufactures urgency out of nowhere, or does you a favor that somehow benefits them more than you, you'll be standing there, calm, seeing exactly what's happening. And remember this, the person who wins isn't always the one who fights the loudest. It's the one who understands first. If this helped you see something differently, hit like. And if you want me to break down the 36 stratagems next, another ancient Chinese playbook full of these same psychological tactics, drop it in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.